Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. How was Gameweek 5 for you? After the international break, it was a bit of a tough one, right? 42 points was the average of the week. So if you got 42 or above, well done. 60 something was for last week. So you can see how we have fallen. So what went wrong? I mean, if you captained Haaland, you did okay. If you captained Salah, you did okay. So it was everybody else, I guess. Not so many clean sheets. Literally only 2 clean sheets this week. And maybe that's why it all fell apart. So, some observations. Kitike has held on to the starting striking position, and it might be his to hold until Isak forcibly takes it from him, which also means that they're probably easing Isak into Liverpool, Grealish a no-show. Newcastle can't seem to perform away from home. Isidor is looking good for Sunderland. Aston Villa finally scored. Pep seems to have closed the gap between him and Arteta. Wolves still are yet to find a win. Man United finally beat a good team, although red cards played their part. Brentford are still looking shaky. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be like there's a new manager bounce effect for Nottingham Forest. Anthony is still looking like a good prospect from Burnley. Palmer getting injured certainly did not help. We had 23 different captain choices this week, and I saw many went for Palmer or João Pedro, anticipating a hammering. Of course, once that red card happened, it changed the flow of the game. And then, of course, once the injury happened, a captain getting 2, tough. To be fair, even going into the week, the fixtures were looking a bit challenging, so it seems that many of us didn't quite figure it out. The marquee game of the weekend saw Arsenal take on Manchester City. Now, if you remember the previous episode, I said, depending on what you think, you should choose the right player. So, for example, I wasn't convinced that Manchester City had closed the gap enough, but I was feeling like they had improved, and that made me just stay away from this fixture, which made me opt for Salah as captain. 103 of us also made that decision. It was in the teens in terms of how many people chose Haaland as captain. It was an interesting game because if you look at the stats, Arsenal had Manchester City type stats, and they looked like the dominant side, but on the pitch, it didn't really look that dominant, but they had a lot of possession. They scored in the 90 plus 3 minutes with Martinelli scoring a nice lob. Haaland, of course, opened off an assist from Reinders, which was great for me because I have both of those players, and each of them got 9. Martinelli scored off an assist from Eze. Both teams had chances to score, but Manchester City's chances in particular, I feel like if people made the extra pass, they might have scored 2 or even 3. But a bit of selfishness cost them this win, in my opinion. When it comes to bonus, Haaland got the 3 bonus points, Reinders got 2, Martinelli and Rice got 1 each. When looking at a surprising result, I would say Wolves 1, Leeds 3 is a surprising result because Wolves was supposed to be better than this. They're supposed to be challenging, but to get hammered, honestly, it's looking very bad for the manager now. Pereira might not be there by the end of this month, not September but October. Now, they scored first through Krejci, and then Stach, he had an impressive performance. The kind where you look and you're like, wait, why isn't he in my team? He scored a really good free kick. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored a great header. Okafor also scored a good goal. Bogle, Stach, and Calvert-Lewin had the assists for Leeds, and Phil Lopez had the assist for Wolves. Stach had the 3 bonus points. Calvert-Lewin had 2. Okafor had 1. Leeds just did what they needed to do, and they settled the game by halftime. Wolves are now firm favourites to go down. If you ask me, them and Brentford are currently in first and second place in terms of favourites to go down. When it comes to round points, remember that there was only 1 clean sheet, and that's so Bournemouth's Petrovic keep a clean sheet. He had 6. Pope from Newcastle had 6 as well. Dubravka, who made great saves for Burnley, had 4. Martinez had 3. Dalot and Sells had 3 as well. When it comes to defenders, Maguire had 11. Matty Cash, who scored a really good goal, had 10. Nico Williams, 10. He scored a really good goal as well. Stanesi, Truffert, and Byrne had 9. When it comes to midfielders, Stach, Gravenberch each had 15 points. Iwobi had 13. Anthony, Idris Kanageye, and Bruno Fernandes each had 10 points. So I guess for the first time in a while, we have a joint top performer in Stach and Gravenberch. When it comes to forwards, Calvert-Lewin had 11, Haaland, Isidor, Richarlison, and Bowen each had 9 points, and Ekitike had 8. Now, looking at the stats generated from the weekend, Arteta becomes the first manager to go 5 in a row unbeaten against Pep Guardiola. Villa finally scored their first goal of the season. With an XG of 0.70, Newcastle versus Bournemouth has been the most boring game played this season. Moyes continues his streak of never having won at Anfield. Gravenberch scored 2 goals in 4 games after 1 in 2 seasons. Idris Kanageye at 35, is the second oldest player to score in the Merseyside derby. Gary McAllister is the oldest. Mateta has scored 50 goals for Crystal Palace. 34 of them have come in under Glasner. Wolves have become the 6th team to lose their first 5 games of the season. West Ham lose their opening 3 home games for the 2nd successive season. Manchester City drew 1-1 with 32.8% of possession, and that is the lowest by a Pep Guardiola managed team. And the 2 lowest have been against Arsenal, 32.8 and 36.5. Interesting. Haaland's opener is the earliest goal Arsenal have conceded in the Premier League since September 2024. And coincidentally, it was also a 9th-minute goal scored by Erling Haaland. Aston Villa finally scored this game week, and only Crystal Palace, who went 641 minutes, and Newcastle went 438 minutes, have been longer than the 427 minutes Aston Villa went without scoring. Eddie Howe has not won any of his 7 Premier League games against Bournemouth. He's drawn 5 and lost 2. Of teams he has faced 5 times or more, only against Manchester City and Liverpool does he have a lower points per game ratio. Reinildo got sent off for Sunderland, and that makes him the first Mozambican player to be sent off in the Premier League. Manchester United versus Chelsea is the first match in the Premier League to see 2 goals, 2 red cards, and 2 substitutions in the first half. Manchester United versus Chelsea is the first Premier League game to see both sides have a player sent off in the first half since Crystal Palace versus Chelsea in 2014. Casemiro is the first Manchester United player to score and be sent off in the first half of a Premier League match, and it hasn't been done since Adebayor scored against Arsenal in 2012. Chelsea are the first team in Premier League history to make 3 substitutions in the opening 21 minutes of a game. Bruno Fernandes has scored his 100th goal for Manchester United and also becomes the 5th player to score on his 200th Premier League appearance for Manchester United. Dennis Irwin, Phil Neville, Wayne Rooney, and Antonio Valencia did this before him. Chelsea's keeper Sanchez got sent off in the 5th minute. It was the earliest ever in a Premier League game for Chelsea, and the 3rd earliest in the Premier League. Ange Postecoglou is now winless in his last 9 games managing in the Premier League, and it is his personal longest run without a league win. You may have not noticed this, but Crystal Palace have gone unbeaten in 17 matches. Yes, 17 matches. This is their 2nd highest unbeaten run. The last time they did this was in 1969 when they went for 18 games unbeaten. 39 of Jared Bowen's 58 Premier League goals have been scored at the London Stadium, so it shows you that he performs at home. Among players with 50 or more goals in the competition, only Zola, who had 69% of his goals scored at Stamford Bridge, and Cristiano, who also had the same percentage at Old Trafford, have a higher percentage at a single ground. Anton Stach scored his first ever Premier League goal by a direct free kick, and this hasn't been done since Calvin Phillips did this in 2021 for Leeds United as well. Liverpool have won their first 5 matches of the season. They have done this for the 5th time. They last did it in 78, 79, 1991, 18, 19, 1920. Great start. The highest points this week were 112. The average points were 42. The most selected player was João Pedro. Most captained was Salah. Most vice-captained was João Pedro. Now, for this coming game week, Haaland is the most brought-in player, with 709,000 people bringing him in. Senesi is the second most, with 408,000 people bringing him in. Semenyo has been brought in by 406,000. Donnarumma by 294,000. Reinders by 280,000. You can tell that people are expecting Man City to absolutely demolish Burnley this coming weekend. 3 Manchester City players up top, so they're banking on a clean sheet on Donnarumma, Haaland scoring, and Reinders doing the business in the midfield. Now, the most removed player was Sanchez, 351,000 removed him. Salah, 345,000 removed him. Wow. So that is clear. It means that people are moving from Salah to Haaland. They're more convinced by Haaland so far. Wirtz has been removed by 318,000. Watkins by 271,000. Wood, 270,000 have removed him as well. The highest points this week saw manager Oshri use their bench boost and get 112 points. In goal, Raya got 2. Gabriel, 2. Truffert from Bournemouth, 9. Chalobah, 8. Matty Cash, 10. Reinders, 9. Gravenberch, 15. Bruno Fernandes, 10. Kudus, 7. Ekitike, 8. Haaland captain, 18. Vicario, 1. Saliba, 2. Gakpo, 2. And Richarlison, 9. And that's how they got 112 points. In our group, the highest player got 76 points. But it didn't start too well for him because in goal, he had Sanchez who had -3. Now, our leader this week is Charlie's Reds, managed by Charles Cardivelis. I will be looking to get an interview with him. 76 points. From the bench, -3. Goalkeeper Chelsea, he really messed people up. Anderson got 4. Senesi, 9. Agbadu, 3. Kudus, 7. Salah, captain, 10. Bruno Fernandes, 10. Rogers, 2. Mateta, 6. João Pedro, 2. Watkins, 2. Dubravka, 4. Pedro Porro, 1. Nico Williams, 10. Reinders, 9. His bench really came through. In number 2, Red Hot Sesko, managed by Army Chief, got 73 points. Kigs, FC Dream, got 72. Chris Masika, manager of Sesquad, 71. And in number 5, Mark Motegi, manager of Mark DeMarcos FC, got 68 points. When it comes to the most transfers made in our group this week, number 1 belongs to none other than the man, the legend, Don Clinton, 14. Dennis Com, 9. Bonaji, 5. Victor Ebola, 5. David Bogwa, Brian Murilla, Dennis Odera, and Aflagani all got 4. Or rather, all made 4 transfers. When it comes to the team with the highest team value, Omar Gilo, manager of Bodhi Blachowicz, has added 0.9 to his team. Kigs is the manager of FC Dream, and his team has seen the highest global rank increase by him jumping 3.5 million positions globally. Kigs has also jumped 69 positions in our league table, so he's done the double of sorts. When it comes to the team with the highest team value, 14 Bora 14 Supu, managed by Ron Chisaka, has a team value of 11.8. Well done to you. When it comes to not so good news, Nikicha LFC, managed by Tatiana Mislenovic, has seen his team's value drop by 0.5. When it comes to rank position dropping, Dennis Com has dropped 3.3 million positions globally this week. When it comes to negative transfer outcomes, like I told you earlier, Mr. Don Clinton made 14 transfers. That resulted in him losing -40 points. Most points on the bench belong to manager Ashwin Lee. He had 25 points on the bench. I'm sure he's wishing he used the bench boost. He had Richarlison, who gave him 9, Caicedo 4, Chalobah 8, Dubravka 4. Though when I see such things, my first thing is that he must be a Manchester United fan, because it's only a Manchester United fan who would remove Chelsea defenders against Manchester United. You know, Chelsea players rather. Anyway, number 2, Nathan Riak lost had 23 points on the bench. Mistaken had 22 points on the bench. And in number 4 and number 5, Tachivini and Viknyadi had 21 points on the bench. When it comes now that we've had a few game weeks, a new stat has come up, which is streak of red arrows. Mr. Nabil Assad has not been doing well, and this is their 4th week in a row when they've just been plummeting down the table. Sorry to you. Our lowest performer this week belongs to Vintage Dreams FC, managed by Tim Odera. He got 19 points. In goal, he had Raya, who gave him 2. Rodon, 2. Bogard, 1. Gabriel, 2. Kukurea, 0. Miley, 3. Verts, 0. Bumo, 3. Palmer, 1. Isak, 1. Gyokeres, 4 as his captain. That's painful. This is an active team. Yikes. There's still time. He could do better. After that, number 2, 21 points from Anthony Koila. Nicholas LFC, 23 points. Dejan Saveski, 23 points. And Victor Nebola, 26 points. And that is the bottom 5. The team with the lowest team value belongs to No Fears FC, managed by Kojo Danso, 99.1. I wonder if he's beginning to get some fears. Dennis Combe dropped 69 positions on our league table. He is the biggest loser in terms of league rankings. When it comes to a streak of green arrows, 14 Bora 14 Supu, Mr. Ron Chisaka is on the rise, and this is a 4th straight week that he has been awesome. Keep it up. When it comes to the team with the most goal scorers, Kiggs has 4 different goal scorers this week, which isn't so high, but it's the most of anyone this week in our league. Kumene Supu gained an impressive 13 points from the transfers made, so it seems like this manager made the right decisions. When it comes to captain choices, by an overwhelming number, Salah was chosen by 103 of us. Haaland was second, with 18 of us choosing him as managers. João Pedro was chosen by 17 of us. Palmer was chosen by 12 of us. Gyokeres was chosen by 11 of us. Wood was chosen by 6 of us. Semenyo by 5. Watkins by 5. Gakpo by 3. Bruno Fernandes by 2. Ekitike, Richarlison, Kudus, Igor Jesus, Hudson-Odoi, Isak, Grealish, Verts, Van Dijk, Raul Jimenez, Mateta, Eze, and Munoz were all chosen by one manager each. When it comes to our league table, we have a new leader at the top. Usif Umar, who got 61 points, now has 330 points. Kojo Danso got 45 and 327. The person who was displaced is architect Sudek Suleiman, who got 36 points, mainly because he decided to captain Palmer, which ended up being a disaster. Konsi Komsa, Mr. Leon Mortier, is number 4 with 324 points. El Fleek is number 5 with 323 points. Number 6 is Aboki Jr., 320 points. Eric Moranga, 313 points. Martin Asewe, 312 points, tied with Ron Chisaka. And at number 10, we have Jeffrey Jeremy, who has 310 points. So between number 1 and number 10 is just 20 points. And if you look just 100 points, by that I mean from number 1 to who has 330 to number 163 who has 230. That's 100 points. So if you're at number 163, it's only 100 points to be number 1. A great 2 weeks and you could be at the top of the table. There's still a lot of time. Don't give up. At the bottom of the table, we have a new number last, but not necessarily new in historical perspective. Mr. Don Clinton, back at the bottom. He's losing. His transfer strategy messes him up, and he is now number 195 with 151 points. Second from bottom is Ayodele Oladuni with 164. Third from bottom has 167. Fourth from bottom has 184. And fifth from bottom has 194. So keep it up, guys. There's still time to change your positions. I don't know. Don Clinton, I'm sure if you change things, things will change, but I don't think you'll change. Looking at the game week that ended, only Liverpool were the team that played in Champions League that managed to win after Europe. Of course, Arsenal playing Manchester City might have affected that kind of result. Newcastle didn't win as well. And this is just maybe the first of many indicators that looking at Champions League teams might make a difference in your game week. And the reason I say that is because last week was Champions League, this week is Europa League. The League Cup has been played, and now there's also Europa League football. This might also affect the players and their performances this coming game week as well. So keep your eyes out for that and be careful. And also take time before you make your decision. Like, for example, Ekitike played for Liverpool last night against Southampton, and he got sent off, which means he will miss this game week. Means that it's probably going to be Isak who plays. So always wait until after the fixtures to make your decisions. Kicking off the game week, it will be Manchester United versus Brentford. Brentford were beaten last time out, while Manchester United beat Chelsea last time out. Now, both teams are not in a great position in the league, but Manchester United should be favourites for this fixture. They are in better form, if you can believe that, and they're legitimately the better team. Ever since losing Thomas Frank, Brentford are not the same. After losing Bumo, they're still not the same. And after losing Wisa, still not the same. And they do have new signings, but things just haven't kicked on yet. And it's looking scary right now. I won't look at the head-to-head because it doesn't really matter right now, since the managers are new. Now, choosing players from their teams, well, Bumo, Fernandes, and Ahmad. For Brentford, I would say Shada, Damsgaard, and Igor Thiago. I believe there are going to be goals in this game because both teams can't keep clean sheets. So let's see what happens. Chelsea take on Brighton. The last time they met, Chelsea were hammered 3-0, and it was not good. The last 5 encounters have seen Brighton win 2, Chelsea win 3. So no draws. Now, their last 2 most recent games show Brighton win. So if you're looking to be more recent, you could say that they might have the upper hand. Now, if you're going to choose a Chelsea player, at this point you've seen with all these people getting injured and suspended, you should be looking at Chaluba, Mr. João Pedro, and Neto. On the Brighton end, you have Mr. Mitoma, Mr. Minte, and Jorginho. Both teams are not great defensively, and this means there's an opportunity for both sides to score. Crystal Palace take on Liverpool. Now, the last time they played was a Community Shield, and Palace won on penalties. Before that, they drew 1-1. Before that, Liverpool beat them. Before that, Crystal Palace won. And so, as you can see, there are 2 draws, 2 wins for Liverpool, 1 for Palace. Palace are unbeaten in 17 games, so this should be an interesting game. Most of the time when they play, there tend to be goals, and I therefore would avoid defenders from both clubs. Now, going forward, Ekitike got himself suspended by getting a second yellow card, so he will miss this match and will be available the next one, which means Isak is is rather in line for a start. So if you're one of those people who have Isak, this might be a good time. Now, Salah and McAllister and Gakpo have been good, and those are the 3 I would go with. For Crystal Palace, I would choose a defender, the one you want. It could be Mitchell, Munoz, or Gay, and then Mateta. And I'm struggling for another person. I think that's about it. If you must, maybe Kamada or Wharton. But honestly, just Mateta is enough, and one of the defenders. Why one of the defenders? Because it seems like the kind of game a defender would score. Leeds take on Bournemouth. Now, both teams are coming off favourable results. Bournemouth not losing to Newcastle is good. Leeds beat Wolves. Now, on the Leeds end, believe in them. I would say Stach looks so impressive, especially from the set piece. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Okafor. For Bournemouth, Semenyo, Senesi, and maybe Tavernier, if not Evan Nilsson. Man City take on Burnley. Now, if you remember a little bit earlier in the podcast, you had a bunch of people bringing in Haaland, Donnarumma, and Reinders, because I guess majority believe this game will be a whitewash. Now, having watched Liverpool versus Burnley, to me it is clear that Burnley are quite competitive, and this game won't be as straightforward as it appears to be on paper. Now, if you're going to choose a Manchester City player, Haaland, Reinders, Doku would be my 3. For Burnley, I would say Anthony, I would say Foster, and Cullen. Nottingham Forest versus Sunderland. This will be an interesting game. Forest will be coming off a European game, so let's see how they do after a European entanglement. I am going to favor Sunderland slightly, mainly because I feel like Ange hasn't had enough time with this team, and it seems like the matches are coming quick and fast. Now, of course, when it comes to choosing Forest players, choose them after this European fixtures. Now, having said that, Wood, Hudson-Odoi, and Gibbs-White are still the favourites, and then maybe Ndoye. On the Sunderland end, Isidor should be your number one, and then maybe Adingra or Mayenda. And if you want a defender, Mukiele. And then Roofs. Tottenham versus Wolves. I can tell you for free that my defender will be playing. I don't believe in Wolves so far. They've lost 5 in a row. I think this game will make it 6 in a row. Richarlison, Kudus, and your defender. That's it. On the Wolves end, if you're choosing Wolves players, I guess maybe the Korean guy, maybe Munetsi. That's about it. I don't think Strand Larsen is back, but he would probably make an appearance at some point. But yeah, don't go into Wolves, basically. They should be a Tottenham game. Aston Villa take on Fulham. Aston Villa have won 5 out of the last 5 encounters they have played against Fulham, which means they are heavy favourites for this game. Kind of like how Manchester United had not lost to Chelsea at home in however many encounters. This is looking like that kind of a fixture. So if you believe that to be true, then Watkins, Morgan Rogers, and maybe Matty Cash, because he scored a good goal. Maybe he'll be buoyed to be more adventurous. Those would be the 3 I would encourage you to take. On the Fulham end, Iwobi is somebody I would be looking at. Mooney scored a really good goal that was disallowed. But I would say Iwobi, Wilson, and Muniz, why not? Those would be the 3 I would recommend. The marquee game of the weekend will see Newcastle take on Arsenal. Now, both teams got draws in their previous game week and will be looking to do better. But honestly, I think both sides would be happy with the draw. I think Newcastle, in the matches I've watched them of late, they have been better than Newcastle. They've looked stronger. But looking at the results, let's see. Arsenal won the last game they played in the Premier League. Newcastle beat them. Newcastle beat them. Newcastle beat them. And Arsenal won. So in 3 of their last 5 encounters, Newcastle have beaten Arsenal. Now, if you believe that to be true, you'll be looking towards Voltemada, Jacob Murphy, and maybe Bruno Guimaraes. I believe both teams have the capacity to score. This game is going to be either a 0-0 draw or one of the teams win. There's no in between. And it's not going to be a 1-1 draw. My strong belief is that either a 0-0 draw or either side to win. So I've already told you who I believe is good on the Newcastle end. On the Arsenal end, I would encourage you to take Gyokeres, Martinelli, Rice. And of course, if you have one of your defenders, have your Gabriel. This is a kind of game where set pieces could be important. Final game of the game week will see Everton take on West Ham, aka the Moyes Derby. West Ham have won 2, drawn 2, lost 1. Potter is not looking great. His West Ham side is not looking great. However, there are 2 sparks of life for me in the West Ham team. And that is their left back, Diouf and Bowen. Those 2 are doing everything to help. And those are the only 2 I would recommend. Of course, and Paqueta. On the other end, on Everton's side, it's really Ndiaye, Grealish, and the defender. Maybe a Tarkowski or a Pickford. That feels about nice for this game. But only a defender if you believe that they will keep a clean sheet. If you don't, maybe just Ndiaye, Grealish, and the dark horse of Beto. When it comes to captain choices, there's a good opportunity in the Man United-Brentford match. And Mbomo and Fernandes are great captain choices. Chelsea versus Brighton, I fancy João Pedro to score against his old team. That's about it. I don't really see another one. Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, never doubt Salah and possibly Mateta. If you're a bit of a risk taker, this could be a good one for Isak. Leeds versus Bournemouth, the menu could be immense in this one. Man City versus Burnley, never bet against the robot. Nottingham Forest versus Sunderland, I wouldn't choose a captain in this game over the other games. Spurs versus Wolves, strong shout for Richarlison in this one. Richarlison, or maybe if you're a gambler, maybe Kudus or Brennan Johnson. Aston Villa versus Fulham, I wouldn't choose a captain over the other ones. But having said that, Villa have beaten them 5 games in a row. So maybe Watkins, if you still have him. Newcastle versus Arsenal would never jump into this game for a captain, considering the other fixtures. Everton versus West Ham, I can see people choosing Bowen. I could see people choosing Grealish. I could see people having Ndiaye as captain. Let's look at the FPL FDR. Arsenal will take on Newcastle this weekend. Then they'll have West Ham, Fulham, Crystal Palace, and Burnley. So after the Newcastle one, fixtures become much easier. Aston Villa have Fulham, Burnley, Tottenham, Man City, and Liverpool. For a team that started so poorly, the games are going to increase in their difficulty. Bournemouth have Leeds, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, and then Manchester City. So they have a set of good fixtures before things become tougher. Brentford have Man United, Man City, West Ham, Liverpool, Crystal Palace. Don't get into Brentford. Brighton have Chelsea, Wolves, Newcastle, Man United, and Leeds. After Chelsea, these games are not looking bad at all. Outside, maybe Newcastle, the games look winnable. Burnley have Manchester City, Aston Villa, Leeds, Wolves, and Arsenal. They'll be competitive, but this is going to be a set of at least 3 difficult fixtures. Chelsea have Brighton, Liverpool, Forest, Sunderland, Tottenham. So 2 of those games are going to be tricky. And with the injuries, it might not be the best time to get into them. Crystal Palace have Liverpool, Everton, Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Brentford. Outside Liverpool and Arsenal, the other games are winnable. Everton have West Ham, Crystal Palace, Man City, Tottenham, Sunderland. 3 out of those 5 are winnable. 1 is really difficult and 1 is, it could go either way. Fulham have Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Newcastle, and Wolves. Goodness, 3 of those 5 will be difficult. Leeds have Bournemouth, Tottenham, Burnley, West Ham, and Brighton. Have Leeds players, this might be the time. These matches are not bad. Liverpool have Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Man United, Brentford, Aston Villa. So outside Chelsea, the other games are pretty much easy. Man City have Burnley, Brentford, Everton, Aston Villa, and Bournemouth. These are great fixtures, especially if they're all fit. United have Brentford, Sunderland, Liverpool, Brighton, and Forest. This fixtures should sort of steady the ship. Outside the Liverpool game, the rest should be winnable. At the end of these 5 games, they talk about Amorim being sacked should ease if things go well. Newcastle have Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham. Outside Arsenal, after this game week, I'll be looking to get into Newcastle players. Nottingham Forest have Sunderland, Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, and Man United. The problem with their fixtures is that we absolutely have no idea what Ange is going to do or bring, but I would avoid them right now until we figure out who they are. At this point, they might even become favourites for relegation. Spurs have Wolves, Leeds, Villa, Everton, Chelsea. Up until Everton, their fixtures look nice. Sunderland have Forest, Man United, Wolves, Chelsea, Everton. Honestly, I could see them winning at least 2 out of those 5 games. West Ham have Everton, Arsenal, Brentford, Leeds, and Newcastle. Mixed bag. They could win 3, but they could also lose all of them. Wolves have Tottenham, Brighton, Sunderland, Burnley, Fulham. I don't know where they're going to win. I can't see a win for them. I am feeling bad for Pereira. I think he's done. And that's the FDR. Remember, there are European fixtures. And remember that teams tend to not do so well after European fixtures. Outside that, I hope your week is going well. See you on the pitch. The game week kicks off on Saturday. Bye.